Hey guys, TekGeekHD here again with another video, and today I have the review of the iPad Air 2. Now this is the second iteration of Apple's iPad Air lineup of tablets. Now Apple actually currently offers two different sizes of iPad, and that is the full-size iPad, which over here at the current generation is the iPad Air 2, and a smaller iPad called the iPad Mini. Now the iPad mini has very similar specifications, the latest generation to the last generation, and so I think that the iPad Air 2 is actually a more improved device from its last generation. So let's get into it. Now the first thing that I want to talk about the iPad Air 2 is the finesse and the quality of the actual display. Now Apple has taken a display that was already very great, which is their 9.7-inch Retina display, and made it so much better on the iPad Air 2. Now on the first iteration of the iPad Air, this was a really great display. It worked well, it looked great, the colors were awesome, but with the iPad Air 2 what they've done is laminate the actual display to the glass of the device. Now while that may result in the fact that it might be a little bit more fragile to drops, it really does also result in the fact that the screen is a lot nicer to look at. Now besides for that, the screen is also, of course, the same size, but what they've done, very much like the first iteration of the iPad Air, is reduce the bezels. They've actually smalled up the bezels, and then also on the bottom bezel they've included the infamous Apple Touch ID sensor, but we'll get onto that in a couple seconds. Now the next thing that I want to talk about is the fact that they've actually made it even thinner. Now the iPad Air first generation actually really pushed the boundaries when it came to how thin a tablet could be, especially packing the kind of power that it does. The iPad Air 2 is just taking that up a notch even more. Now one of the things that I find a little bit strange is the fact that Apple's tried to move away from their chamfered edge design, but the iPad Air 2 still sports it. But besides for that, the device is actually really seamless. It has a really nice feel in the hand, and it's super thin and light. It's actually lighter than the last iteration of the iPad Air, which is very hard to believe that they managed to do something like that, but they still did. Now the iPad Air runs iOS 8. This is the latest version of Apple's infamous iOS operating system, and while it isn't as fully featured as a full macOS 10 desktop operating system, at least for this tablet, it really does work well. It's very simple and doesn't have any of the extra features that you're looking for if you're coming from an Android tablet or something along those lines, but it really does get the job done. It's very easy to use and it just works. Now coming back to that Touch ID sensor, this is Apple's infamous fingerprint scanner that allows you to unlock your device and make purchases. It was first introduced in the iPhone 5S and makes its latest debut on the iPad Air 2, and this is the same exact sensor found in the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus. Now something interesting about the iPad is, now even though I'm not an advocate of using your device, at least a tablet, as a camera, this actually has a really nice camera. It has an 8-megapixel camera available on the iPad Air 2, and it actually comes with a f2.4 aperture, which actually lets in a pretty decent amount of light. Now this doesn't have a flash like the iPhones, but it actually still does capture some really great photographs and looking video. It plays back and records full 1080p video using the back camera and 720p video using the front-facing camera. Now another thing that the iPad is very useful for is browsing the web. Now it comes default with Apple's Safari internet browser, which is actually very speedy on their own devices. Now I would definitely not recommend you use it on a Windows computer, even though it is available, because it hasn't been optimized as well. But it does work and look really nice on the iPad, as well as Apple's own devices. It works great, it's a fast browser, and it looks really good on this screen, especially because the text looks so super clear, as do the photographs, and I think that this is absolutely a really great combination if you want to browse the web really quickly. Now that really does sum up the iPad Air 2. The thing with this device is that it's just a little bit better than the last generation, but it's a huge step up in showing the world what Apple is capable of doing with their tablet game. Now besides for increasing the internal specifications, including the RAM up to 2 gigabytes, there isn't very much different about this as compared to the last generation in terms of its internals. But would I recommend it? Absolutely. Not over the original iPad Air, but at least for any device underneath of that. If you have the original generation iPad Air, I think you can still definitely wait, because this only brings a couple of minor iteration changes. If you're looking for a whole different device, I would definitely wait a couple years. Anyway guys, that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please do remember to subscribe. I would really appreciate that, and do remember to like the video. And yeah, that's about it. I hope that you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.